Alright, here we are live. Hope this is working okay. I'm going to try to get this in a decent location. Got it plugged up so it's kind of offset a little bit, so hopefully this will work. So I just wanted to read out the Department of Justice complaint that will be submitted about the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. And so you can have a glimpse of what has been going on and is continually going on. So without further ado, and we'll start off with, my name is Alan Watson, citizen of Lowndes County, Georgia, of the United States of America. And this is to the Department of Justice, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C., 2530001. This is a formal complaint of civil rights violations in Lowndes County, Georgia, from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office and the Lowndes County Jail. And let's not forget the entire judicial circuit, okay? The entire circuit is at fault. The first incident occurred, and these are specifically about individuals involved with continual harassment. But this isn't every single incident. Like I mentioned in the Facebook Live post that I did, I wanted to let you guys know that, that this is not the only. I'm going to read off these, but this is not the only incidents. So just know that. And I do actually mention that in the end. So here we go. The first incident occurred on 11/30/2006 when Sergeant Farmer and Andrew Denmark, under directives of Lieutenant Robert Pachotti of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, followed Mr. Watson in an unmarked vehicle, claiming to coincidentally notice his tag of many tag plates of cars parked on both sides of Alden Street in Valdosta, Georgia. The excuses to violate his rights in formal documentation were because of an anonymous call claiming that the driver of Mr. Watson's father's vehicle was that of a narcotics dealer. Denmark and Farmer from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office then followed Mr. Watson from a residence in a predominantly African-American area off of Alden Street, and then falsely claimed he made a traffic infraction in order to legitimize an illegal stop of Mr. Watson's vehicle. This then led to an illegal search that led to an arrest with trumped-up charges, misdemeanor marijuana, to a felony, simply because there was a box of sandwich bags found somewhere in Mr. Watson's father's vehicle and a bag of sugar turned into, quote-unquote, intent to distribute an imitation-controlled substance. On the way to jail, Mr. Watson alleges that Andrew Denmark did strike Mr. Watson on the back of the head while handcuffed. Mr. Watson humiliatingly accepted a plea bargain under duress and coercion by being incarcerated in an inhumane facility and knowing that he might have to endure years more of the harsh conditions as other inmates who've pled not guilty, and with the public defender, Jason Kane, who told Mr. Watson that he would not speak at all in court if Mr. Watson wanted to plead not guilty. Number 2 occurred on 10/28/2010 when Sergeant Taylor, under directives of Lieutenant Robert Pachotti of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, engaged in following Mr. Watson in an unmarked vehicle from his place of employment. And I hope that you guys can hear this. As DJ at Tight Ends Bar and Grill in Remerton, Georgia, predominantly African American once again, to a Publix off of Gornto Road in Valdosta, Georgia, turning left with a green arrow from Baytree Road. To Gornto Road led to another falsely alleged traffic infraction. Immediately, Sergeant Taylor asked for consent to search, to which Mr. Watson refused, leading to a calling of a K-9 unit to do a sniff of the perimeter of the vehicle. Numerous police vehicles then arrived and surrounded Mr. Watson in the Publix parking lot. The K-9 jumped into the car as the car windows were down and the front door of the vehicle was open. The canine was uninterested in anything in the vehicle and was looking for further commands. No narcotics were found on Mr. Watson's person nor in the vehicle. Kenny Busby and John Mulvaney were performing the illegal search. This led to a further search of his previous location, Tight Ends Bar and Grill, by officers of the Remerton Police Department and Scott Goodwin, working in tandem with Lieutenant Robert Pachotti of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. No narcotics were found at this location. There were two witnesses, owners, Rob and Cindy Allen, that attested that Mr. Watson was not the sole individual who was in the DJ booth, and that Mr. Watson was a good employee who never gave any indication of using narcotics during his employment. After about 45 minutes, Mr. Watson was finally issued a warning citation after all of the illegal intrusions were complete. Okay, and I've shown you that one. You guys saw that one. They actually issue a physical warning citation to you. If they give you a warning citation, you will own it. You will have it. They will not have it. You will. So, get that out of the way. Number 3. 12/1/2012. Mr. Watson was followed from Tight Ends Bar and Grill, predominantly African American, once again, and then illegally arrested by officers Tinsley and Lane of the Remerton Police Department and Scott Goodwin, working in tandem with Lieutenant Robert Pachotti of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office in Remerton, Georgia. While walking from the establishment to his vehicle, Mr. Watson and his cousin, Hunter Baxter, were both detained for a false allegation of attempting to urinate on a building and trespassing. Mr. Watson was illegally arrested, searched, and seized from and charged with quote-unquote disorderly conduct when Mr. Baxter would not respond to where he was going in fear of the police. After being arrested, Mr. Watson was taunted by a Kenny Busby of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, who asked, "You're Watson, right?" And the charges were dropped. The court knew that the defendants would not plead guilty, yet Mr. Watson was still forced to pay court costs and bail money. And I did report that incident to Scott Goodwin. I mean, why would you report an incident to the devil? You know what I mean? What does it matter? All right, so the fourth incident. Here we go. 2/15/2013. When Mr. Watson was out with his African-American friend, Charles Pollard, he was approached by Lieutenant Robert Pachotti and immediately asked for consent to search while at Tight Ends Bar and Grill. Lieutenant Pachotti accused Mr. Watson of being the target of a bogus investigation involving a quote-unquote female that he claims to have arrested. Mr. Watson refused the search and asked if he was being detained. Lieutenant Pachotti then backed down in front of the crowd when Mr. Watson exercised his constitutional rights to be free from unwarranted illegal searches and seizures. Number 5, 8/17/2015. Mr. Watson was followed by two unmarked vehicles of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office from Heather Price's apartment, 1469 Green Street, apartment C2 of Valdosta, Georgia, heading to the warehouse off of Vashley Street in Valdosta, Georgia, before arriving at the warehouse to get a reference letter signed by the manager, Ronnie Smith, a member of his church. Mr. Watson was engaged with another alleged traffic infraction. Mr. Watson complied by pulling over when the taunting officer from the Remerton encounter, as well as the Publix encounter, narcotics officer Kenny Busby, started writing a warning citation immediately after falsely claiming Mr. Watson made a traffic infraction. Kenny Busby then asked to search his car, to which Mr. Watson refused. Kenny Busby then called for the K-9 unit as he got on his radio and said, "We've got a refusal," quote unquote. A K-9 unit arrived at the site of the detention shortly after Mr. Watson was informed that the dog was a narcotics dog and that the dog would do an open-air sniff of his father's vehicle. The K-9 unit sniffed around the car completely and then returned to the controller. The dog did not alert on anything. The controller gave another command, and then the K-9 unit jumped up onto the vehicle at the rear fender, scratching Mr. Watson's father's car, leaving a mark. This was claimed to be a, quote, hit. Then, the officers falsely claimed they had probable cause to search. The officers found his father's firearm, unknown to Mr. Watson and not in plain sight. Mr. Watson's father, Bobby Watson, is a licensed carrier who regularly transported money from the church to the bank as a treasurer, and the firearm is in his name, as is the vehicle. Bobby Watson has submitted an affidavit to the clerk of courts attesting to the facts. The officer, that doesn't matter, by the way. Your tax dollars are being wasted right now as we do this live broadcast. The officers then placed Mr. Watson under arrest without knowing for sure whether or not he was a convicted felon. While in handcuffs, John Mulvaney read Mr. Watson his rights after asking, quote, "If I go through your phone, am I going to find anything?" end quote. Mr. Watson responded with, "You do not have permission to go through my phone," end quote. Mr. Watson was taken to a Lowndes County Sheriff's Office interrogation room to try to confirm that I was a felon. Mr. Watson was met, Mr. Watson was a felon. Sorry, pardon me, I'm trying to critique as we go, but Mr. Watson was met by Robert Pachotti, who claimed that he was trying to make sure that he would not lose his $70,000 a year pension, end quote, quote unquote, end quote, by taking Mr. Watson to jail wrongfully. Mr. Watson asked to speak to a lawyer. And how do I know he's got a $70,000 a year pension? Did I look that up? No. He said that to me. And if you don't believe me, then where's the interrogation room? Where's all that footage? I'm surrounded by cameras. You guys have me in this room. I'm in handcuffs. You're threatening to get inside of my fiance's apartment, basically, by kicking down the door with absolutely no evidence. Yeah, so, I'm sorry, guys. I get a little off tangent, but we're on number 5. If you just joined us, we're on number 5, incident number 5. I'm continually going on right here. I gotta keep going. Don't lose track, Alan. All right, $70,000 a year pension. Let's start back with that. Okay, Mr. Watson asked to speak to a lawyer, yet questioning continued. Pachotti was trying to confirm that Mr. Watson was a convicted felon before taking Mr. Watson to jail. John Mulvaney and Robert Pachotti were trying to get the phone number of his fiancée, Heather Price, who they wanted to go inside of her apartment. When Mr. Watson did not recall the phone number, John Mulvaney said, "We're just trying to save the door from being kicked in," end quote. Once Robert Pachotti felt certain that Mr. Watson was a convicted felon, he was finally taken to the Lowndes County Jail and charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And for what? 8 years prior for cannabis and flowers and sugar. I'm not making this up. Flowers and sugar, I'm a felon. All right. Mr. Watson. Okay, hold on. Robert Pachotti, John Mulvaney, Ken Buzzy, and Scott Goodwin, and many other officers proceeded to do a warrantless search of the previous location of the traffic stop. Mr. Watson was later charged with 3 extra charges after his arrest and did not witness anything that went on at Miss Price's apartment. However, Miss Price did witness everything and did relay that information to myself and some FBI agent, 1 or 2, who have been trying to contact her and my father, and from what it seems are interested in fruits of a forbidden search. So what is the FBI doing? All right. So here we go. All right. Mr. Watson was later charged with 3 extra charges. John Mulvaney and Scott Goodwin did attempt to get Mr. Watson to accept charges for illicit drugs, is what they told me, threatening by implying that he would be a bad person if he would allow Miss Price to go down instead of himself. I told them, I don't know if it goes into that, but I told them I said, you went from an illegal traffic stop to inside of my fiance's apartment. Take me back to I said, I'm suing you. Take me back. Take me back to work, into my cell, And that was it. And they were like snickering and laughing, and that was it. Okay, a knock and talk was performed at Heather Price's apartment that turned into an illegal arrest since Heather Price was blocked from disengaging conversation with the officers and was forced to stay outside for, quote, 2 hours, end quote, for the claimed acquiescence of a warrant. And this isn't the first time that's happened, too. There's other people that have had this happen to them that I can bring as witnesses to say that, yeah, this kind of thing happened at their place too, where they hold you outside and threaten you basically with acquiescence of the warrant. So here we are, 2 hours, okay? They tell her, Heather Price has filed a notarized affidavit to the clerk of court stating that she was coerced and intimidated into giving the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office officers illegal consent to search her apartment. They do nothing about that. What do? They indict a ham sandwich. That's what they do. They'll indict anything. They look at nothing. With your money, it doesn't matter. They don't care. You're scum to them. They own you. They own me. They're just everything, right? Okay. So basically, there is a missing Benchmade knife worth $450 that was stolen, that is known about. Other items taken, though some may not have been listed as evidence, were hemp protein powder, a digital scale, meteorites, a belt buckle, a gun case that had dust on it that was not being used as a gun case, obviously, that they found, freezer bags, sandwich bags, package material with Mr. Watson's name on it, but yet they disregarded package material with anybody else's name on it at all. Like, so basically, there was package material with my father's name on it with previous people who have lived there. Yeah, they disregarded all of that. So, let's see, we got baking soda from the freezer that was claimed to be a cutting agent. And then they claim cocaine. First it's illicit drugs, then they claim it's cocaine, and they told my father it was worth $8,000 over the phone, my parents. Yeah, so that I wouldn't get bonded out. Oh, I didn't get bonded out, trust me. I didn't, for a long time. Heather Price was illegally arrested when her attempted disengagement of the first-tier encounter was blocked by Scott Goodwin of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office by placing his arm across the entrance of her apartment without probable cause nor suspicion of committing any crime. Mr. Watson's fingerprints were not found to be on any evidence seized, and they checked a lot of stuff. It was like 25 items. Mr. Watson's First Amendment rights were violated when Pachote claimed to follow him based on his tag cover, claiming that Infowars.com is a drug-dealing website. Mr. Watson, he didn't just tell that to me, he told that to Heather too. Mr. Watson and Heather Price's Fourth Amendment rights were violated when they were both illegally searched and items illegally seized. Mr. Watson was wrongfully arrested before officers truly knowing that he was a convicted felon. And when Heather Price, without suspicion of committing any criminal activity, was blocked from re-entry after asking for a warrant. Mr. Watson's Eighth Amendment rights were violated when he was incarcerated and inhumanely treated at the Lowndes County Jail from 8/17/15 to 1/2/16, which is 139 days, but that is not limited to those dates, because what I understand the Supreme Court ruling recently about whether or not a state has to pay a victim, yes, the state has to pay the victim. So I'm going to go back to 1998, okay? 20 years of harassment and illegal activity from these people. That's how far I'm going back. And I don't care. I'm going to sue. You guys are going to have to answer this garbage. You've already lost. You people have already been sued and lost. And broken people's shoulders. I've seen you in multiple cases. You guys, and one of you guys, the guy who's arresting Heather, he's the one that batters women. I mean, what the hell are we... Why are these people working at the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office continually? And look how long Pachote's been there. He's been there this entire time throughout the sheriffs, throughout all the years. That's why his pension's $70,000. And you or I can't get jobs, but he's running around doing all this crap on your tax, because he's going to get sued and he's going to lose. He's not going to win this. Do you think he's going to win? He's probably lost before so many times that I don't know, because you don't have access to that stuff. They don't tell you. Did you know Mulvaney lost a sizable amount by breaking someone's shoulders in Lowndes County? Did you know that? And he's still working. Did you have any clue? And you're paying for that, but do you have any clue how much money you've spent with that idiot, that son of a whatever, trash, scum? Let me get back to the case here, there are 50 signatures of inmates that will attest to the atrocities that occurred and do occur. And not only that, I've got an expert witness. I've got two. And I'm not telling you who they are. Okay? There's two of them, and yes, they're both officers. And one of them is from the inside. I'll put it to you like that. There's going to be a class action lawsuit for this because I can't do but one thing at a time, okay? I got to sue these people for what happened to me first, and then we're going to get into a class action lawsuit. I'm not going to forget about you, trust me. I didn't get 50 signatures from inmates for no reason. There are 50 signatures of inmates that will attest to the atrocities that do occur at Lowndes County Jail, including but not limited to malnourishment. I had scurvy. I lost 30 pounds, and it's on record. And I wrote that I had scurvy on the paperwork. Insufficient health care, mold on the dinner trays. Everybody can attest to that. Improper ventilation. I've witnessed them blow dust back in the faces of everybody in the cell while they're walking around in the cell. There is a ventilation system that draws air from the outside. There's no air conditioning at all. And this thing is broken, by the way, now. But when it did work, when I was in there a long time ago, yeah, the maintenance guy who used to date the male witch, you know, I can get to the bottom of who all you are. I know where you live. I know where every one of you work. I know where you live. I know what you did. I've got documents that can wrap around the courthouse. You sprayed with an air compressor dust in the faces of every inmate that was in that cell. You sorry sack of trash. I will politically strangle you until you die. Okay? All of you. I'm not done. I'm not done. I mean, I mean, you just don't know what it's like to wake up to just witnessing this stuff. I've not even been able to tell you this. I've been holding this back. Some of you know me for this whole time. You didn't even know this about me. But this is the I mean, I can't even believe. I mean, it was meant to happen, you know. The straw that broke the camel's back. It was damn sure meant to happen. Thank God it did. Because, look, it's meant for you to know this. It's meant for you to know what happened to me. And what will happen to you. And what you're paying for, it's already happened to you. You're paying for, what am I talking about? You're paying for every bit of this. All right. No recreation. We used to go outside. Nope, not anymore. You stay inside the entire freaking time. You get 0 vitamin D. 0. 0. And you might get lucky if you get a haircut because they've got like 1 or 2 guys that'll cut your hair, and then, you know, if you're lucky enough, you'll get on the list and get out there. I mean, it's lack of proper supervision, with some inmates being beaten, kidnapped, and held hostage. Yeah, I've got that witness too, okay? He was beaten, and everybody witnessed him come in the dorm looking like he had went through a train wreck and just goes to his cell. He was held hostage in this cell. I don't think you guys, you can't hear anything the way these cells are now. There's no bars. You close this thing now, you don't even hear anything. It's glass. It's like plexiglass with wire. You know, it's metal doors. You'd have to press the button, the emergency button, to get any attention. Anyways, all right, let's keep going. Inmates being put in, quote-unquote, the hole, with cells that were flooded, while being almost completely naked, in extremely cold conditions, cold temperatures, racial remarks from guards that were witnessed. I've got witnesses for days. This is going to be a big lawsuit, and I'm going to call you. You're going to get subpoenaed. Anybody who's involved with this, you're going to get a part of this, or we're going to settle, or something's going to happen, because all of this is coming out. I'm not done at all by any stretch. I need to just start a show that I can cook in front of you and show you organic stuff, and then tell you little stories about the 20 years in Lowndes County. I could tell you about that, you know. That would be a great story, right? Be a great show. The cells were flooded. Racial remarks from guards and violent threats. Intimidation with mail operation. I told you about one of the officers that was arrested while we were in jail. You didn't hear about that one. Intimidation with mail operation, the mail witch. who got beat with the phone. And yes, she's a witch. And did she deserve that? Probably. Did she deserve to get bashed upside the head with that phone inside the jail? The way her attitude is, yeah, let me tell you something about her, okay? She will ruin anybody's day. Anybody's day. I don't care if you just, you just reach Mount Everest and you're on the, you're on the highest, known substance known to man you can be on, whatever. She will bring you down. Anyways, racial remarks, you got extremely high-priced phones. You got negligence of inmate concerns when it comes to a grievance, with lack of handing out of forms, negligent handling of indigent care packs and commissary, where you would have somebody go for like weeks without getting a care pack. I mean, come on now. And then the commissary is a joke too now. They'll just take your money will disappear. There's no accountability. You'll miss your item. You don't get it for like whenever. There's no accountability at all. You spend money on that garbage, you got to try to stay alive. I mean, they don't even feed you enough. You got to look on something like we had to get, like what I would always try to get was like anything with the most vitamin C I could possibly find, even though it was full of bullshit that I did not want to eat. Everything is tainted. There's not one thing that's natural. They don't give you fruit. And from what I understand, somebody told me they steal the fruit. The officers take the fruit that's donated to the inmates. And let your stupid little story resonate with everybody about you. Everybody's going to make alcohol with the fruit. Really? We're all going to make alcohol. So you'd rather us all die of scurvy and be suffering from malnutrition because you're worried about an inmate making alcohol, because you can't pay attention to everybody, because 80 to 90% of everybody in there is not supposed to be in there. Victimless crimes. I'm telling you, I have 50 signatures, okay? I didn't make that up. Those are real people. You will be able to contact those people when we file the class action lawsuit. They did spend time in there, and those are the cells that they spent time in. And yes, there's truth to somebody who was murdered in there, I'm sure. You don't understand what it's like to wake up every stinking day with this. They are not giving me disposition, nor you. What if I really did do something? Why is this case going on for 2 years? All the witnesses would lose their recollection of a lot of the information, wouldn't they? They would. That's why it's discouraged to do that. But they do not care because they own you. They think they own you. You're going to find out who owns who. All right. A 2 to 4 week delay in access to legal materials. Mr. Watson and all victims are collectively seeking for years of illegal, and I'm going to tally every single year, every single day, every single freaking hour that I can tally from you bastards. Years of illegal contact, a full pardon, because I've done nothing to anybody in this county ever. Never. I've never hurt anybody in this county. Never. I've never. Okay? I'm just going to say it like that. A full pardon and restoration of Mr. Watson's rights, which I was trying to do conveniently the day that you stopped me illegally and kidnapped me and false imprisoned me once again. I was going to go get a restoration. I mean, it's like you're listening to me on the phone. You guys have the Stingray capability. Is that what you're doing? Now, I know one of you were following me. I know State Trooper Green, you, and the guy that pulled up next to you in the all blacked out tinted windows. Lowndes County, well, probably FBI. It could be probably FBI. Solid, royal color, dark blue, Crown Vic. Pulled up right next to you while you followed me to work for 6 to 8 miles. And you were, bam, right on point, weren't you? As soon as I got to that interstate, you were right there. Yeah, see? And you're already scum. You've already been reprimanded. You all have. Why do you even exist in this county? Because, you know why? It's because nobody knows. So here I am. All right, so, and you're going to know. You're going to know. Mr. Watson's rights. Full restoration. since data of Mr. Watson has also been improperly handled. They put me in another county. I mean, I didn't even know, let alone being young and not having any clue about this stuff before the internet, before I could even tell you like this. It's not even possible for me to tell you back then. It's so hard to do this before, okay? Mr. Watson's case has been improperly handled. Yes, it was improperly handled. All the way from start to finish, everything start to finish. You're completely corrupt. You're all just completely corrupt from start to finish. Improperly handled regarding completed first offender plea bargains and incorrect arrest locations that were entered in incorrectly by the Lowndes County Clerk of Courts, making it hard for Mr. Watson to determine the source of defaming information. Punitive damages, I want. All financial damages, all mental health damages in the sum of $4 million, pursuant to established court settlements involving false imprisonment, racial profiling, false arrests, malicious prosecutions, harassment, violations of the First, Fourth, Eighth, and 14th Amendments. And if you want to throw kidnapping in there, you might as well. I mean, what is the difference? That's all I can do right now, guys. Thank you for paying attention. I mean, it's just like, I'm going to brush up just a tad. There's not too much to brush up on that. That's just going to be for the initial filing, but I mean the initial complaint to the Department of Justice. But the 1983 is going to be filed as soon as we get the disposition, which is going to be case dismissed. You already know. They're dragging butt for no reason. They told me my case has quote-unquote fallen off of the docket. What the hell kind of crap is that? Get out of here. I'm sick of you people. Get out of my life. I'm done. I'm trying to wipe you off the map from Lowndes County. I'm going to not stop, okay? I'm not going to stop until you are gone. Gone. All right? Got that? Bye.